time has passed. There are no more. He is the last dinosaur. Okay, I realize I'm a little late to this, but here I am at last to give my thoughts on G-Fest 2025, my second G-Fest, because I unfortunately missed out on the G-Fest last year. If you did see the video that I made on G-Fest 2023, first of all, hi, glad to have your viewership. But second of all, you should pretty much know what to expect from this one. Basically, I'm just gonna roll a short little highlight reel first, showing off, you know, all of the stuff that I thought was cool enough to film and get footage of and compile it into a montage, and then it's gonna cut back to me here in the present, talking about the stuff that I either didn't film because I thought I had more to say about it, or it would just be better to talk about it, or because I forgot. But before I get into any of that, if you just want to hear my sort of very basic Cliff Note bullet points version of what I thought of G-Fest this year, I liked it. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it a lot. I would say that it was roughly comparable to the G-Fest from 2 years ago, the last G-Fest that I went to. I really need to start making this an annual thing. And I'm not just saying that because it would make filming these videos easier. I'm saying that because, you know, I liked it so much that, yeah, I'm seriously considering going back next year and not, you know, missing a year like I did last time. However, again, I have to stress that I haven't been to a lot of these, or even many conventions in general, so I don't really know what constitutes a good G-Fest or a sub-mediocre G-Fest. Have there been bad G-Fests? I can only comment on what I've seen, so maybe a more seasoned G-Fest veteran might be a little harder on these when they happen every year, and they might be expecting them to keep upping the ante. For me, I'm just glad to get to go at all and see the cool stuff, hear from some cool people, and buy a couple of new things as well, which I will obviously get to. But I will save all of that yapping for later in the video, because for right now, you have a highlight reel to watch, so I am going to shut up and let you enjoy that. Shirts of Godzilla, one for you and me. I have too many of these. just went to the dealer's room. Luckily, there was some room. Spent $40 on camera. Still debating whether I should have gotten that Heisei Gamera toy. Oh, yeah. So now it's time to talk about the other stuff that happened for the 3 days that I was there. So right off the bat, one small way in which this was kind of a downgrade from the last G-Fest I went to was the fact that I was, unlike last time, I was not staying at the hotel where the convention was also taking place. I was staying at my brother's apartment in downtown Chicago, which, if you're unfamiliar with the area, is quite a ways away from Rosemont, which is where the hotel is, and subsequently where G-Fest, the place that where I want to be, is. So every day getting there was a little bit more of a commute than it was last time, and the downside of that is because this is partially my fault for not being especially diligent about waking up super early so that I could get there in time for the doors to open, was that there was some stuff on the itinerary that I was interested in, but I missed it. I didn't give myself enough time. One of the things that I was a little genuinely disappointed about was that I saw a listing for a Mothra ballet, which seemed really cool to me, but I just didn't get there in time both days that it was happening. So for anyone who might be watching that video, please tell me what I missed. Was it good? Did you film it? Please tell me you filmed it. No matter though, there was plenty of cool stuff without it. Most of those things were happening on the second or third day though. See, the thing with the first day is that I actually don't have much to talk about because it was more or less just a warm-up day, and it's also easily the day where I did the most recording because it's the day that I did the most just walking around the dealer's room, walking around the artist's room, buying stuff, that kind of thing. But one thing I did do a lot of that I do want to highlight is that I spent a lot of time in the Dojo Studios room, where it has all of the models and costumes and suits that people made. Where was this last time? What were they here last time? Do they do this every year? It was so cool. I can't believe I missed out on it. The first one I went to, if it happened again. I don't know if it's an annual thing, but I'm pretty sure it is. I also did go to a panel on the first day, which was the Godzilla vs. Destroya panel, because if you are unaware, that film turns 30 this year. It was pretty straightforward. They just kind of talked about the movie and shared some fun trivia associated with making it. But I do want to point out one thing, which is that one of the panelists was actually at the last G-Fest I went to. He hosted the G98 panel that I raved so much about in that video, and did not go unnoticed because he actually commented on that video. So he saw it, which means that there is a pretty good chance he will see this video and possibly leave a comment on it as well. So, hey dude, thanks for putting on several good panels. You put on multiple, including one really awesome one the next day that I'm going to talk about very shortly. I think the most exciting thing I did all day was probably going down to the tabletop games area and playing a couple of kaiju-themed card games with people. That was the extent of my adventuring on the first day. I didn't even expect to go into the dealer's room, to be honest, because it's always so crowded, but by the time I did, the line had thinned pretty quickly, and I was actually able to get in there rather swiftly. And that's another thing, is that because it's the first day, not everybody is there all 3 days. I wasn't there all 3 days, the first one that I went to. And the first day was definitely the least busy. So if you want to get into stuff like the dealer's room, you want to have like the best chance of not waiting in a ton of lines or that sort of thing, you might want to make sure to go on the first day, just in my opinion. You could also just go all 3 days. That's the ideal scenario. Speaking of which, let us move on to day number 2. If you've been watching the videos that I recorded and uploaded as I was attending, then you'll know that this was the day that my brother accompanied me and got that sick Hawaiian shirt, and was also easily the day that we stayed the longest, I think. I think we stayed until around like 7:30 or something like that. We did not stay for the costume parade, in case you're wondering. I missed that I missed that in the last one too. I don't know why. I guess it's just a little too late, and I don't feel like waiting around for that sort of thing, but I don't know. There's always next time, right? Anyway, the second day was honestly a lot better. I did more stuff, went to more things, walked around longer. It's cool to have someone else with you so you don't feel like as out of place and lonely, because a lot of people go with their friends or their family or whatever. As for what I went to, the first panel I went to, which I made a community post about because I was so excited as it was happening, was I went to a panel with the guest Shinichi Wakasa, who is the man behind the modeling on a lot of the Godzilla and various monster suits from the Heisei through the Millennium period. Super talented guy, very accomplished, helped bring a lot of the most iconic monsters of the franchise and a lot of the most iconic variants of Godzilla to life. So it was really cool to see someone of that caliber at one of these things. Mr. Wakasa obviously doesn't speak very fluent English, so they had to have a translator, as I often do for these Japanese guests. And I liked how the host of the panel actually, gave her a shout out and said like, hey, let's give it up for the translator, because I feel like they don't really get that much, they get no respect. From what I can tell, she did a great job, so I appreciated the shout out that they gave her, and I am giving her my own shout out. I cannot remember her name for the life of me, and for that I apologize, but just know that she was there and she did a great job. Shinichi Wakasa was also a really good guest. He obviously seemed very proud of the work that he had put in for these movies, as damn well he should be, and was just happy that, people appreciated them and that they had reached a lot of fans even all around the world. And after that, I stayed in the exact same spot. Well, not the exact same spot. I scooted forward a little bit and sat closer to the front, but I stayed in the same room for the next panel, which was with a gentleman by the name of Gert and he is noteworthy for playing Zilla in Godzilla 1998. A lot of people might not know that they used a suit for that movie. A lot of people think that it was all CGI, and admittedly some pretty cool and very large animatronics. But no, there were a handful of shots where it was just classic suitmation, guy in a suit action. And yeah, Gert was the main suit performer, and God bless this guy. He seemed to have a really good sense of humor about the film. He seemed very aware of the fact that for the longest time, not too many people viewed his rendition of Godzilla too favorably, and even admits to seeing a screening of Godzilla Final Wars and everybody cheering when Zilla got blown up by Godzilla, and he said that it hurt him a little bit, but he was happy for the people in the audience. And he's managed to have a great career outside of Godzilla. He's a very prolific suit and stunt actor, of which there are still plenty in that industry, which is, it's really good to know, particularly in like horror and monster movies, lower budget stuff, that they still make use of those old school special effects techniques, but updated with modern technology. It's good to know that that sort of thing is still alive and well, and guys like Gert can still get work. There was also a really funny moment in that panel that I absolutely have to mention here, where at the end, they usually open up the floor for the audience to ask questions towards the end of the panel anyway, and it was no different here. But towards the end, one of the questions that somebody asked the guy was what he thought of the animated series that came after the movie, Godzilla the series. And he said, he hadn't watched it, but also said that he had a friend who wrote several episodes. I really want to know who, and I want to know which episodes he wrote. But he said something that I think just shows like the gap between like nerds and normal people that just starred in things that nerds latched onto, when he said something along the lines of like, yeah, I never saw the show, but you got to keep in mind, I was in my 30s when it started airing, so like, and all I could think of when I heard that was just, way to read the room, guy. Yeah, because as we all know, with this crowd, being in your 30s is totally a determining factor for whether or not you still watch kid shows. But I don't think anyone took it too hard. Then after that, I did You guessed it, more walking around. That's a big part of conventions. We did have a little bit of a scary thing happen later on in the second day. Me and my brother were just walking up to the hotel bar area to get something to drink, and we saw an ambulance and these like paramedics rushing in from outside the convention center. And then later, a few minutes later, we're up there just chilling, and we see them pull out the gurney, and there was a guy on it. I don't know what happened there. I don't know. I think they pulled him out of the dealer's room, so it might have just been like crowd crush. That place can get pretty crowded and pretty packed, and it can be rather suffocating if you just get like pinned and there's a big group of people. So I sincerely hope that this sort of thing is rare, and I would assume that it is, but even still, accidents do happen. Shit happens at places like these. On a lighter note, something cool did happen to me as I was leaving. Matt Frank was there the entire time, the artist Matt Frank. If you're watching this video, you probably know who he is. But he did the same panel that he did at the last G-Fest that I went to, and presumably the one in between. I didn't go to it this time, nor did I go see him in the artist room where he was signing stuff. Bob Eggleton was there again too, that other Godzilla artist. Yeah, a lot of cool art stuff, but I didn't get one. I did get something from the artist room, but we'll be getting to that later, but I didn't get anything from either of those two. But as I was walking out of that hotel, bar, restaurant area, he was walking towards it. He looked in my direction, and he gave me a little smile. So, that was nice. That was cool. I didn't say anything to him. I didn't want to, bother him or anything, but still, not everybody can say that they've been smiled at by Matt Frank, although I imagine a decent number of people can. He seems like a pretty easygoing, pretty approachable guy, but I could be totally misreading him. I don't know. I liked him at the one panel that I saw him at. And then after that, crowning achievement of the second day was that me and my brother went down to the film festival room and watched a couple of kaiju short films. We didn't feel like staying for a feature-length one, but we saw two in a row, and their combined length probably would have been feature-length. All I will say is that both of them are relatively new films that are clearly very low budget, but are being made with like old school suitmation special effects techniques. So again, like I was saying earlier, it's just cool that that's still being used, that those old effect styles are still being used, even if again it's more for lower budget indie stuff. I'm glad that they found a home somewhere. Moving on to day number 3, I was riding solo again. 2 panels I think this time, one of which was talking about, it was actually pretty cool. It was talking about the mythology of GMK, Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters, all that. Mouthful of a title. But if you're familiar with that movie, then you will know that it's much more spiritual than other Godzilla movies. A lot of, the monsters are basically like ghosts and possessions and haunted stuff, and it's pretty cool. And there was this panel that this guy put on of, talking about that, which is a really interesting concept for a panel. And another panel that I think had an interesting concept was the one I went to afterwards, which was talking about Godzilla genre, like what genre the Godzilla films fall into, which is a really neat idea that I have actually been meaning to make a video about for a while. So it's nice to know that someone else is on the same wavelength as I am and kind of beat me to it, but in panel form. But I can still make the video on it. I just can't host a panel at G-Fest about it because that's already been done. Aw, shucks. And then after that, it's getting kind of late in the day, and day 3, late in the day at G-Fest, you know what time it is. Oh yeah, I went to Kaiju Confessions with Stan High, and it was just as awesome as last time. Actually a little better than last time, because I can't speak for everyone, but I was a little apprehensive about singing in front of all these strangers and like really putting my all in it at the last G-Fest I went to. Not this time. I sung with soul! Hopefully the neighbors didn't hear that. Oh, and by the way, speaking of last time, if you can't tell, I'm referencing last time quite a bit more than I intended to. But remember that rant that I went on about that guy that went up during the film clip footage and mimed along to the tokusatsu stuff, talking about, like, you know, pretending to be Gyra and Sanda and fighting and whatnot. He was there. He sat next to me again. I don't know if that's a complete coincidence or if he somehow recognized me from the video that I made about him, but that seems incredibly arrogant and pompous to assume the latter, so I'm gonna go with the former. But yeah, he sat next to me again in the front row again and got up and mimed along to the monster footage again. It was kind of more endearing this time around. I don't know, it just caught me off guard and I couldn't believe what was happening the first time, but I kind of warmed up to it in the interim. What can I say? Anyway, yeah, that pretty much did it. I left soon after that and was on the plane back home by early the next morning. Wow. That was a mouthful. But you want to know a really good way to settle down from all of that excitement? Merch haul. Let's start with the shirts. First, I'm gonna get the one that I'm wearing out of the way. Crushed It shirt, Godzilla baseball jersey, GMK shirt with the print on the back, Destroy All Monsters shirt, which says it's a medium, but I am almost certainly convinced that that is a misprint because it is sizably longer than my other medium shirts, and when I put it down over top of the GMK shirt, I noticed that it's much wider too. And lastly, I also got an official G-Fest 30 shirt, but I don't have it with me to show you right now because I'm having it shipped to me currently. Even though it's been like 3.5 weeks at this point and I still haven't gotten it. I guess I should have asked how long it would take. Maybe it got lost in transit. I don't know. I think I got enough shirts anyway, but that would still be kind of a waste of money and I should probably try to get a refund for it. But as for the non-clothing stuff, vinyl Gamera figure from Gamera Guardian of the Universe, which in my humble opinion is actually the best Gamera design. I know a lot of people say usually default to Revenge of Iris for that. That's probably my runner-up, but I don't know, I just really like how, you know, there's something very classic but also very updated about how he looks in this, and I would have been okay if they kept this look for the entire trilogy, but at the same time I think it's cool that they changed his look with every movie and actually gave an explanation for it. I'm gonna try not to move this too much because it's in a plastic bag and it's very noisy, but can you see that? That is a sick-ass little poster art piece of Godzilla and his monster buddies in a band together. And I regret to inform you that, as far as I can tell, the band is not called Destroy All Monsters. That would have been a nice reference. Still, I can't be too upset with the artist because they did also give me this card, which has a little QR code on it that presumably links to their Instagram, which is listed right here as well. And just for giving them a shout out for making that awesome poster, I am going to link it down below in the description of this video all the same. I'm also going to be linking this website right here, which is of a comic artist that I also passed by while I was in the artist room. I didn't buy anything from them, but I did get their card, so it wouldn't feel right leaving this out of the video. And saving the best for last, probably the coolest thing that I got, is this Mothra larva plushie, which you already saw in the montage, but what I did not show you in the montage is that it has this zipper along the back. And if you unzip the Mothra larva, you will see, I think you all know where this is going, you can pull out, oh, metamorphosis in action. You see that? It's pretty cool, right? Say it makes a nice companion piece to my Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah blanket too. So that is going to do it for my coverage of G-Fest 2025. The 30th G-Fest ever. Wow, I guess more than one Godzilla related thing is turning 30 this year. Actually, technically G-Fest did turn 30 and Godzilla vs. Destroya is still 29 for another few months, so enjoy the rest of your 20s, Godzilla vs. Destroya, as much as movies can, I guess. So the big question to wrap up all of this with, those two big questions, is one, did I like this more than the last G-Fest I went to? I don't know and I don't care. I liked both of them. Why do I have to choose? But the more important question is, given how much I liked both this G-Fest and the last one, will I be going to attend more? If I can help it, yes I will. Alright, well, I will see you in the next video. Hopefully it's a real scripted one and not another vlog, but what can I say? That's all I've really been able to make lately. But until then, thank you for watching, have a great day, and until next time, see ya.